Hello staff. I wanted to do a quick faculty meeting flipped so that I can share some information with you. I know you have the milestones training with Miss Dean, but there is some information that I have been holding on to that I want to make sure that I share with you. The first one is, if you remember, I asked you for your opinions one time and then a final opinion about no teams in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, or just the second time it was just 7th and 8th grade that leadership had decided to put out there for you all to decide on. The majority feels that it would be beneficial for students to not have teams and departmentalize in 7th and 8th grade. So I'm going to ask the board office for flexibility with that for next school year, and I will let you know if we're approved or not approved for that decision. The second thing that we had asked for information from you all, your opinion about switching connections. We ended up talking to the leadership team about the 8th grade connections, knowing that those students who leave early for sports or whatever would only miss their connections classes, not their contents. And that's the year that science, English, math, and social studies all count. So really we need those children to have 5th and 6th period connections to keep that the same. So we asked about just switching 6th and 7th grade. I do not feel like the majority of the staff wanted that. We took out the votes from the 8th graders because really they don't have a dog in the fight. So we just looked at the opinions of the 6th and 7th grade teachers, and it wasn't a resounding majority. I think it was a very small percentage that preferred it, and I would rather it be a very large percentage. So we are not switching connections for next year. So that's that for the opinions. We're going to begin making some changes, talking to you all during your summatives about placements for next year, so that we can make the best possible situation for students in teams for 6th grade and then in subjects for 7th and 8th grade. So you will not, hopefully, if the board approves, have teams in 7th and 8th grade. And really that is to the benefit of the students so that we can individualize their learning and do what's best for them for every subject. The other thing that I wanted to talk to you about, if you remember when the board office came out for our 45-day visit, they went around and used the Elliott to score the teachers' classrooms in which they observed, and they did 30 observations at our school on February 22nd. And so they sent us our average scores. And I'm going to attach this as well as several other things to this email that's going out tonight. So this was our score sheet with our averages in the columns. So what it looks like from here, and you can print it out and look at it yourself, there are several areas that we are the weakest. The actual weakest was providing exemplars of high quality work. Again, they only were in there for 10 minutes, so it may have been a situation where you've already shown an exemplar, or maybe that day you weren't showing an exemplar. So that, though, was 83% not observed. The other very high not observed was using digital tools, technology to gather, evaluate, and/or use information for learning. Use digital tools, technology to conduct research, solve problems, and/or create original works for learning. And use digital tools, technology to communicate and work collaboratively for learning. So the whole digital learning environment was very low for us in the not observed. Again, we talked about this during our PLCs, that the digital learning environment, it must be in the student's hand. It is not something that you're doing when it comes to technology. It has to be in the student's hand. So hopefully all of you are applying for the Google Carts from the county. And actually, let me say this, that we were informed by the Board of Education, the curriculum department, that we are receiving 4 additional Chromebook carts from them. They had some money and are giving Ebenezer and us 4 additional Chromebook carts. So we just purchased one that I believe is now being housed in Miss Bullock's room, and then we're getting 4 additional Chromebook carts. So next year we want to make sure that we spread those out among, I guess, the departments in 7th and 8th grade, and among the teams in 6th grade. So we'll figure out where those are going to be housed. And also, once you all apply, we'll see who gets those Chromebook carts, and then we'll place the 4 that the board office is getting us. So when we can get that into the students' hands more, those scores will go up. And again, they were only in there 10 minutes, so it may not have been observed just while they were in there. Maybe you were at the end of the lesson, beginning of the lesson, and you hadn't started your Google Classroom or things like that. So the other thing that they sent us that I'm going to attach to the email coming home with this video is the it's kind of a rubric, or it displays for us how each of these Elliots are tied to TEKS. It's a TEKS and Elliott alignment. So for example, if we look at the TEKS that we had the lowest on, which was the provide exemplars, which was B3. B3 under TEKS 1.6 bases instruction on goals that reflect high expectations for all students and a clear understanding of the curriculum. It could support that on your TEKS. So what you'll see in the alignment is how the Elliott aligns to a TEKS evaluation. So I'm going to attach that to the email tonight as well. The other thing that was just recently shared with me on Friday is information about your TEKS when it comes to the TEM. So this year, you are only going to be scored on your TAPS summative, just like you were last year. So some of you may have had 1 walkthrough, 1 formative, some may have had 2 walkthroughs, 2 formatives, and some of you had the full 4 walkthroughs, 2 formatives, and all of you will have a summative. So this year, your TAPS will only count for you. However, you're going to see, and I'm going to attach this as well. This is the chart that shows when the other parts of the TEM, there are 3 parts to your TEM, and the parts for your TEM is prior year growth data available, professional growth data available, and 90% attendance protocols. So when we can get the data from all 3 of those areas, that's when you're going to start to be scored on the TEMs as well as your regular TAPS, like your walkthroughs, and then you'll also be scored with your TAPS. That will not happen until 2019-2020. With that being said, though, we are already starting to get information this year into TEKS that will include your student growth percentile. Now, one of the things that you're going to notice, it's already uploaded into TEKS, and we will be sharing that with you at your summative evaluations. I will, and your evaluators will take the professional learning rubric, which I'm attaching as well, professional learning rubric, and we will score you for that professional learning. Have you met your goals? Are you doing professional learning to meet those goals? So we will score you on that, and that will go in there. Now, that won't count for or against you on your TEKS, but it is a part of the TEM that they're starting to pull that data for. The other thing that's going to be in there is your growth data. If you have growth data, and this year, everyone, ELA, math, science, and social studies all have that growth data, and I'm going to talk about that in just a minute. The thing you need to also know, though, is when you see that growth data in there, the 90% attendance has not been applied. So in other words, it's taking into account all students for you, how they did on the milestones for your subject, for your content area. It does not take into account whether those children were in your classroom 90% of the time, which is what will count for you according to the timeline when 2019-2020 comes around. So this is the 90%, and again, that's not going to be applied until 2019-2020. So right now, it's just strictly your student growth. It doesn't take into account whether those students were present or not present for any determined amount of time. So we have been given, and I'm not going to attach this, but we have been given all of your growth data. And now here's another difference. We shared with you during your pre-evaluation conferences your student growth data from SLDS when that came out. We shared that with everyone by their evaluator. Now, here's the difference. On SLDS, it is your student growth data median that is on SLDS. You, however, are really going to be scored what the state has sent to the Board of Education, and they have now shared with us, is actually your mean, SGP mean, and that is what your growth rating is going to be dependent upon, is the mean, not the median, which is what's on SLDS. I can't really explain why there are two different ones, but there are. And it actually seems like, which you math teachers can explain to everyone who's not math, but the mean, for the most part, seems to be higher for most people. So that's very positive. This year, every subject, like I said, ELA, math, science, and social studies, will all have a SGP mean rating. And so what you're going to see is that they take that mean and they have a chart right here. And this chart tells them that a mean GP growth percentile lower than 30 is a level 1. A mean growth percentile greater than or equal to 30 and less than or equal to 40 is a level 2. Greater than 40 is a level 3. And equal to or less than 65 is a 3. And a mean growth percentile higher than a 65 is a 4. So 4 is the highest and 1 is your lowest. And let me say this, the 2016, which is what is going to be on this because it's lagging data, the 2016 SEMS school SGP mean for ELA and math for TEM is 52.33. So the mean SGP for just ELA and math is 52.33. The 2016 Effingham County mean for ELA and math, so the district mean for ELA and math for the TEM is 50.39. So we were about 2.06 ahead of the district, or higher than the district. The statewide district mean was 49.89, so we were higher than that as well. So then they take that, whatever our school, because remember, if you, after this year, if you are in a non-SGP content area, so science or social studies or our connections teachers, if you do not have a milestones, or even if you're in 8th grade to have a science and social studies milestones, you're going to get the district mean for ELA and math. So our district mean, remember, is lower than our school mean, but our district decided to have the district mean as our TEM for non-SGP teachers. So it's still, though, when you look at, there's another chart, that's for teachers. Here's the district. The district has a different chart. I don't know why, but a level 1 is less than 35. Then they have the level 2, 3, and 4. So our school and our district would have fallen into a level 3. So next year, if the scores were the same or thereabout, you would have received a level 3 if you do not have an SGP. One of the reasons that this could be positive and or negative, depending on who you are on our staff, is that it can affect you. So for example, this year I have on the chart that they shared with us, I have 3 teachers who teach either science or social studies who had a level 4 SGP. So I have 3 teachers, science and social studies, who had a level 4 SGP. Well, next year, they're not going to be able to have that level 4. They're going to have to go with a district, which would have been a level 3. So really, it could hurt those teachers who would have personally gotten a growth rate higher. On the other hand, I have, in science and social studies, 7 teachers who got a level 2. Now, if they didn't this year, they're going to show that level 2. However, next year, they wouldn't have that level 2. Instead, they would go with the district mean that would be a 3. So it will really help them. So some people it's hurting and some people it's helping. Then at the same time, when you look at those teachers are going to have to get the district mean because they do not have a class that has a student growth rate. However, we have ELA and math. So if you teach ELA and math, you only get your own growth rate. You don't get the district growth rate. You only get your own. So for some of you, that can hurt you. So for example, if you had a 2, if you have a level 2 as your growth rate, you're going to get that because you taught those kids, you have a milestones, you can get a growth rate. However, if you were in science and social studies, you would have gotten a 3, you would have gotten the district. So you see how that can play out depending on what you could have earned. You know, if you look at these 3 people that are in science and social studies that earned the 4, and they would have not been able to get that, they would have gotten the district, which would have been a 3. And I don't want to discourage my 4s from working so hard to get a 4 and be that kind of a teacher just because they're going to rely on the ELA and math teachers for our entire district. And again, this goes back to why we were saying and have been saying in the PLCs to please do things in your classroom to support those ELA and math teachers. I know we can't really support the others in our district, and we were higher than the district mean, but we can support it within our own school, and that will help bring that up. I want to just remind you, some people may be confused by the fact that, for example, if I have an 8th grade teacher who's teaching science and social studies, they are going to take a milestone. So the knowledge would be, well, why can't they have a growth rate because they are taking the milestones? However, if you go back to the fact that they can't grow, those children can't show growth because they didn't have a 6th or 7th grade milestone. So there's no way to really show growth. We can show performance for those teachers and those kids in that class, but we can't show growth because they didn't take a 6th or 7th grade. So the only thing that all science and social studies teachers and connections teachers will go by starting next year will be simply by the district mean, which for this year is a 3. We can all work hard and get that district grade up to hopefully a 4, and even our school, which won't matter because that's not what our district has gone by, but I would be proud to show a 4 for our school. But our ELA and math teachers, and even our special education teachers who teach ELA and math, you'll go simply by what your earned SGP is. All right, so that is it. Don't forget that you have your milestones training. That's really one of our big focuses right now, is to do this push to get our students through milestones. We will know more, hopefully, about retesting the milestones and getting that push to the end of the year. But I wanted to share with you the Elliott information, share with you the fact that we're going to ask for flexibility in departmentalized for 7th and 8th grade, and we're not switching connections classes, and then share with you the information about your SGPs. If you have any questions about, and if you're dying to know your SGP before we even have your summatives, which will not be till the end of April, beginning of May. We don't have to turn those in until the middle of May. If you really want to know what your SGP is, you can stop by and see me. I'm the only one that has a copy of that at this point. And ask me. I'll let you know what your SGP is for your subject. And again, if you're in science and social studies this year, you will be showing that SGP on your TEKS. It does not count in your TEMS, but it will be on your TEKS. We'll also share with you at your summative how you did on your professional development, your professional learning rubric, which is attached to this as well. So you'll be hearing from us to set up those summatives so that we can finish out the year with our TEKS and get through the 2016-2017 school year. If you have any questions, come see one of us. Thank you.